Ohio has tons of ghost stories and urban legends. Every time I look up haunted places, especially in the US, I have to stop myself from going down the rabbit hole that is haunted Ohio. Seriously, what are you people doing up there in Ohio? Anyway, I've talked about some haunted places in Ohio in the past, so let's go back there. Metaphorically, of course, it's kind of hard to travel right now. And talk about Gore Orphanage. The Gore Orphanage legend comes out of Vermillion, about 42 miles west of Cleveland in northern Ohio. As of 2018, the population of Vermillion was about 10,000, so it's a pretty small town. According to legend, Gore Orphanage was established in the 1800s and run by a man only known as Old Man Gore. Gore wasn't a very nice guy, and the orphans were often neglected. On November 22, 1910, the building caught fire. Old Man Gore managed to escape, but left the kids inside to fend for themselves. They tried to escape downstairs, but the staircase was already engulfed in flames. All of the kids died in the fire, and the fire reduced the orphanage down to its foundation. There are different theories as to how the fire started. Some believe that Old Man Gore started it himself, either as insurance fraud or because he was a sadist and or sick of the kids. Others blame a disgruntled male employee or an unknown crazy man. The latter lived in the woods near the orphanage and didn't like hearing the kids make noise. There's also been speculation that Native Americans started the fire for some reason, or that it was started accidentally when an orphan knocked over a lantern in the barn. Whatever happened, this is clearly where the hauntings began, or so the story goes. There is plenty of reported supernatural activity on the grounds where the orphanage is believed to have been. People have reported smelling smoke and hearing the roar of flames, as well as seeing the ghosts of the orphan children covered in flames and running into the nearby woods. Apparently, nobody ever taught these orphans how to stop, drop, and roll. A dark, shadowy shape has also been spotted on the grounds. It's believed to be the ghost of the person who started the fire, if the fire was indeed started intentionally. People have also claimed to hear footsteps on the remnants of the front porch and children singing nursery rhymes. Bright lights have been spotted in the nearby woods, and little bloody footprints have been spotted in the snow. You can apparently see and hear children on a nearby bridge at night. The children are dressed in period clothing, and they disappear as soon as you cross the bridge. Children crying has also been reported from the bridge. Other reports include the smell of burning flesh, as well as reported satanic activity in the area. In my research, I also found a picture of what appears to be a strange little girl peeking out from beneath a tree. At least that's what the writer of the blog entry says where I found it. I will let you decide for yourself what this actually is. There are a few more stories I want to share. The first says that if you park on the side of the road, turn your car off and flick your headlights on and off 3 times, you'll hear the screams of the dying children. These last 2 stories borrow pretty heavily from other popular urban legends. In the first, a couple heads to the orphanage ruins, parks their car, and goes for a walk. When they get back to their car, they hear what sounds like raindrops on the window. But as it turns out, it's not raindrops. It's drops of blood coming from a child hanging from a tree above their car. The last story is a little more general. It says if you park your car on the edge of the road, leave, and later return, you'll see tiny handprints on the car, almost as if the children have been surrounding it. If you've been on my channel for a while, or even if you haven't, this might sound familiar. It's very reminiscent of the haunted railroad tracks of San Antonio, which I have talked about before. I will leave that video up here in the cards and probably at the end of this video if you want to check it out. So here's the part where I spoil all the fun. There's no historical evidence that Gore Orphanage ever existed. There was no building called Gore Orphanage and no fire there. How could there be in a building that doesn't exist? There was no old man Gore, no burned up orphans. So, where did the stories come from? As it turns out, there are several different true, or at least mostly true, stories that the legends could have derived from. The Collinwood Fire happened at Lakeview School in Collinwood, an area that is now part of Cleveland. I believe Lakeview was an elementary school, but I'm not sure. On March 4th, 1908, a janitor noticed smoke coming from the basement. He rang the fire alarm and managed to escape himself, but many of the children weren't so lucky. The school only had 2 exits, and the front exit was already blocked by flames by the time they got there. The children fought their way to the back exit, but it was locked. Firefighters tried to unlock and open the door, but it opened from the inside, and the children were crowding one another too much to get out. Of the roughly 370 people inside, 172 children, a teacher, and a rescue worker were all killed. It took less than an hour for the building to burn. Much like the fictional Gore Orphanage fire, the cause of the Collinwood fire was never determined. There were rumors that the janitor started it, and I believe he even spent some time in police custody, but no charges were ever filed. There was also speculation that it was caused by girls smoking in the basement. Whatever happened, this appears to be the first puzzle in the later legend. A real house built in the area was called Swift Mansion. It was also known as Rosedale. It was built in the 1840s by a wealthy farmer named Joseph Swift. I have read that Joseph Swift had 2 children who died while he was living in the mansion, but I couldn't confirm this 100%. Swift lived in the mansion until 1865, when he sold it to the Wilbur family. The Wilburs had a reputation for being strange. They were known spiritualists and often held seances in their house for the purpose of calling the spirits of small children back to earth. Nicholas Wilbur and his wife Eliza had 4 grandchildren who died from diphtheria during an epidemic of the disease in 1893. It's not clear if the grandchildren were living in the mansion at the time of their deaths, but what is clear is that, like most grandparents in this situation, the Wilburs didn't take this well. Their seances ramped up with the intention of communicating with their grandchildren. Mrs. Wilbur was said to pass food to her dead grandchildren at meals and even tuck them in at night. Nicholas Wilbur died in 1901. According to ghostsofohio.org, the Wilburs sold the house in 1895 to the Sprungers, who provide the next piece in this puzzle. Joseph Sprunger started the Light and Hope Orphanage in 1903. It's not clear if the orphanage was actually on the property of Swift Mansion or if the orphans were kept elsewhere. The orphanage also doubled as a school, teaching orphans and destitute children skills like agricultural work. Most of what I read about the orphanage wasn't great. Sprunger was said to be a religious fanatic who believed in faith healing, telling sick children to pray rather than taking them to a doctor. The children were said to be fed calf lungs, hogsheads, and sick cows, and their food was often spoiled, if they were fed at all. Corn was supposedly boiled in the same water as dirty underwear. The building was infested with rats and bedbugs, and children were often rented out to local farmers as slave labor. But one source tells a different story. A 2014 article in the Morning Journal claims the children weren't mistreated at all and that the Sprungers were nice to them. No records of the place seem to have survived, so I'm not sure which version is true. There are a couple of reports of fires at the orphanage. The Morning Journal article says there was a fire on the property, but it was contained pretty quickly and there were no deaths. Another source talks about a fire at a girls' home that was part of the property, but again, there were no deaths. Joseph Sprunger died in 1911, and the Light and Hope Orphanage closed in 1916. These three historical events are thought to have been spread through word of mouth and eventually distorted into the Gore Orphanage legend that we know today. Just one quick note though before we move on. There is a tombstone of someone named Sprunger in Indiana that sounds a lot like Joseph Sprunger, but his name is listed as Johann, not Joseph. So it is possible that Joseph wasn't his real name or that his name changed at some point for some reason. Hey everyone, Editing Mary here for just a little bit more context. One, I know his name is listed as John on his tombstone. Johann and John actually have the same meaning. They both mean God is gracious. John is of Hebrew origin and Johann is of German origin. Two, Johann Sprunger immigrated to the United States from Switzerland, so that might have something to do with it. I tried to dig into this a little bit further, but I couldn't find much. I'm not exactly an expert in linguistics, so if anyone else has any insight into this, feel free to leave it in the comments. So Gore Orphanage isn't a real place, but Gore Orphanage Road apparently is. It was built to separate Lorain County, where Vermillion is, from neighboring Huron County. It was originally named Gore Road because there was a surveying error during the building of the road, and a strip of land had to be annexed. In this context, the word gore refers to a material used to make clothes, and apparently that's what the annexed road looked like. It apparently later became Gore Orphanage Road when the Light and Hope Orphanage was in the area. Just a note about Gore Orphanage Road. I couldn't find it in Vermillion, at least not on Google Maps. The only Gore Orphanage Road I could find in the area was in Wakeman, about 14 miles south of Vermillion. I don't think this is too strange. It's possible that Gore Orphanage Road isn't its official name, or that Google Maps just got it wrong. I just wanted to point this out in case anyone else goes looking for it online. There are a couple of movies based on the Gore Orphanage legend, or at least inspired by it. The first one is called Gore Orphanage. It was made by a Pennsylvania couple on a shoestring budget and described as a psychological thriller. It follows a 9-year-old girl who is taken to Gore Orphanage after the death of her entire family, where she has to fight to survive. If you want to check the movie out for yourself, I will leave a link below where you can stream it. There's also a novelization of the movie written by the movie's co-writer and director Emily Lapizzardi, and I will leave a link to that below as well. There is another movie called The Legend of Gore Orphanage, but I couldn't find out much about it. From what little I did find, it looks like a supernatural horror movie that incorporates the legend into the story. According to its IMDb page, it was actually filmed in Vermillion. I couldn't actually find the movie anywhere. I did find a Facebook page for it, but there haven't been any updates since 2018, so I'm not sure if or when we will actually get to see this. According to the Northern Ohio Paranormal Society, the orphanage grounds are now a part of Lorain County Metro Parks. The area is open to the public, so you are free to go there and roam around, as long as you don't disturb anything. If you're from Ohio and have heard this legend before, I would love to know more about it in the comments. I'm always interested in hearing about these legends from a local's perspective. Of course, even if you are not from Ohio, I would still love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share it. And for more dark content, I hope you'll consider subscribing and hitting that bell. If you're watching this on the day it comes out, which is Easter, then I hope you're having a happy Easter. If you don't celebrate Easter or are watching it in the future, then I hope you're still having an awesome day. Thank you so much for watching and have a creepy day. Bye guys.